Imagine waking up one day and realizing your entire life wasn't yours. Every choice, every habit, every decision you thought you made, it was all carefully crafted by someone else. Not out of love, but out of control. You weren't a partner, you were a project, a pet. And the worst part? You never even noticed. One overheard conversation changes everything, and suddenly the truth hits like a train. What would you do if you found out you'd been manipulated for years? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. That evening started like so many before it. My wife entertaining her friends in the living room, their laughter drifting through the house as I busied myself cleaning up in the kitchen. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but a remark about men being oblivious caught my ear. My wife's response hit me like a slap. "Oh, please, I don't deal with that. I have him trained like a dog." The eruption of laughter that followed left me rooted to the spot, her words echoing in my mind. She wasn't joking. She was proud. She went on, explaining how she had meticulously studied methods to manipulate a man's behavior, consuming books, articles, and online courses aimed at empowering women. But instead of using that knowledge to uplift herself, she had turned it into a tool, one she wielded expertly against me. "If I want him to stop doing something, I don't argue. I make him feel bad," she said, voice brimming with confidence. "I don't nag. I act disappointed, withdraw affection, let guilt do the work for me. And if I want him to do something, simple. Praise him, make him think it was his own idea. Works like a charm." The women cackled, seemingly unfazed by the sheer calculation behind her words. I clung to the desperate hope that it was a tasteless joke. But then she started listing examples, pointing out the hobbies I had abandoned, the social gatherings I'd stopped attending, even the foods I no longer ate, all because they didn't fit into her carefully curated life. She boasted about planting ideas in my mind, steering me in directions she preferred while allowing me the illusion of choice. When one of her friends asked if she ever felt guilty, she scoffed. "Guilty? Why would I? He has no idea. Marriage is a game. You either train them or they train you." My grip tightened on the countertop as memories surged. Moments I had once dismissed now made perfect sense. The countless times I had questioned why I'd given up something I enjoyed, only for her to brush it off. The way my routines had shifted without me noticing. The way every disagreement, no matter how small, ended with me apologizing, unsure of what I had even done wrong. I wasn't a husband. I was an experiment, a project she had successfully completed. The conversation moved on, but I couldn't focus on anything else. My ears rang as I stepped away, distancing myself not just from the kitchen, but from the illusion of our marriage. I needed space, air, anything to escape the suffocating realization that the woman I loved saw me as nothing more than a well-trained pet. One thing was certain, that control she wielded so easily, it ended now. The next morning, she carried on as if nothing had happened. She moved through the house, humming, smiling, handing me a list of things she wanted done as though our relationship was unchanged. I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere. I needed to understand just how deep this manipulation ran. So I started paying attention. At first, it was subtle. The way she phrased her requests to make it seem like I had already agreed. "Since you're going out anyway, could you grab a few things?" Even though I had no plans to leave. The calculated way she never raised her voice in disappointment, but instead let silence and disapproval work their magic, compelling me to adjust my behavior to avoid that feeling. I saw it clearly now. She had conditioned me. Digging further, I revisited old conversations, scrolling through messages I had once thought were harmless. Patterns emerged, phrases she used strategically to guide me without ever directly saying no. "It's fine. Do whatever makes you happy," always appeared when she disapproved of something, despite never outright forbidding it. And every time, without fail, I had backed down. eager to keep the peace. Then I saw the books. Our shelves were lined with self-help guides, relationship psychology texts, empowerment manifestos. I had never given them much thought before, but flipping through them now, I felt sick. They were filled with techniques on how to subtly control a partner, how to shape their choices without them realizing, how to reinforce behaviors with carefully placed rewards and punishments. And the worst part? I had followed their instructions to perfection, without even knowing it. As I traced the pieces of my life, I saw the full picture. When had I stopped playing my guitar? When had I begun isolating myself from friends? When had I started hesitating before making decisions, instinctively seeking her approval? This wasn't normal compromise. It was deliberate, orchestrated control. And it had worked. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was awake. For the first time in years, I wasn't just reacting. I was seeing. And once my eyes were open, I knew there was no closing them again. Now, the next move was mine. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I knew how that would go. She would twist my words, turn the situation around, make me question myself again. No, this wasn't a battle I could fight on her terms. But one thing was certain. I would never be trained again. She had a way of distorting reality, twisting events until she emerged as the wounded party while making me question my own perceptions. Whenever I challenged her, she would brush off my concerns, labeling me as paranoid or irrational. I refused to hand her that power again. Instead of engaging, I played the part she expected, acting as though nothing had changed. I met her subtle manipulations with the usual responses, mirroring what she wanted to see. But internally, I was watching, analyzing, keeping a silent record of every tactic she used to keep me under her influence. I began making quiet preparations of my own. The house was in both of our names, and I needed to understand where I stood legally. I reached out to a lawyer, not for a divorce just yet, but for insight into property laws, joint assets, and what my options would be if this all unraveled. I scrutinized our financial records, bank statements, credit history, shared expenses. She had always controlled most of it, but as I dug deeper, I realized just how much of my income had been siphoned into her personal luxuries rather than our mutual obligations. So, I made adjustments, rerouting a portion of my salary into a private account she wasn't aware of. It wasn't drastic, just enough to create a foundation for my independence. Simultaneously, I started reclaiming the parts of myself she had systematically erased. Old friendships, hobbies I had neglected, aspects of my identity she had gradually stripped away. Reaching out to a friend from my past felt foreign at first, like stepping into a life I had unknowingly left behind. But as we talked, fragments of my former self began resurfacing. She took notice. "Why are you on your phone so much lately?" she asked one evening as I messaged an old friend. "Just catching up," I said, keeping my tone casual. "It's been a while." Her smile was tight, forced. "Oh, that's nice." She didn't push the issue then, but I saw the gears turning in her mind. A few days later, her behavior changed. Suddenly, she was unusually affectionate, lavishing me with praise, preparing my favorite meals. She played the role of the devoted wife flawlessly, but I wasn't fooled. This was a calculated maneuver, an attempt to reel me back in. I let her believe it was working while I continued putting my plans in place. I ensured I had copies of every critical document, our mortgage, insurance policies, car titles. I backed up messages, emails, anything that could serve as leverage. And once I had secured everything, I made my choice. I was severing the ties completely. Timing was crucial. If I acted too soon, she would manipulate the situation to her advantage. Every piece, legal, financial, emotional, had to be aligned perfectly. When I left, I wouldn't just walk away. I would walk away with the house, with the stability she had tried to deny me. My lawyer confirmed it. Based on the financial records and my documented contributions, my claim was solid. So, I waited, maintaining the illusion, allowing her to believe I was still under her thumb while finalizing every last detail to ensure I walked away with more than just my freedom. Then, one evening, I put the plan into motion. She arrived home, arms overflowing with shopping bags, purchases, as always, made with our shared funds. Barely acknowledging me, she was already lost in a phone conversation, bragging about her latest acquisitions. I remained seated at the dining table, waiting. When she finally glanced in my direction, she frowned. "What's with the look?" I placed a folder in front of me. "This is over." Her lips twitched, but she quickly concealed it with a dismissive chuckle. "Over? What are you talking about?" I let the silence settle between us, allowing her to feel the weight of what was coming. Then, with measured calm, I clarified, "This marriage, I know everything." For a fraction of a second, panic flickered in her eyes before she masked it with a hollow laugh. "You're being ridiculous." I slid the folder across the table. Inside, she found it all: proof of my financial contributions, legal documents outlining my claims, records exposing her reckless spending, and, most damning of all, printouts of her own words, boasts in messages and social media posts detailing how she kept me under her control. Her fingers trembled slightly as she flipped through the pages, her movements becoming more frantic. "Where did you get this?" she demanded, her voice taut with unease. "I've been paying attention." Her expression hardened. "And what exactly do you think you're going to do with it?" I already did it. That was when I revealed the truth. I had already filed the paperwork. The house was legally mine. The accounts had been separated. Every safeguard she had put in place to keep me tethered was gone. Her grip tightened around the folder before she snapped it shut. "You can't do this to me." "I already have." For the first time, she wasn't in control. She wasn't dictating the terms of the conversation. I was no longer reacting to her manipulations. I was leading, and she had no script to follow. Her voice wavered as she scrambled for a foothold, desperately trying to turn the situation to her advantage. "We can fix this. You're just upset. Let's talk." I shook my head. "I'm done talking." She studied my face, searching for any weakness, any crack in my resolve. She was looking for an opening, a way to maneuver me back into submission. But there was nothing left for her to latch onto. The game was over. But there was nothing. The person she had painstakingly shaped over the years had vanished, and for the first time, she grasped that reality. She sat frozen, her fingers clenching the folder so tightly that her knuckles paled. Her gaze flickered between the documents and my face, struggling to process the shift. This time, she wasn't the one pulling the strings. The silence between us thickened, pressing in from all sides. Then, as expected, the performance began. Her voice softened, adopting a carefully curated tenderness. "I don't get it. Why are you doing this?" She reached forward slightly, fingertips grazing the air as if trying to bridge the gap between us. I didn't move. The stillness, my refusal to engage, rattled her. She wasn't used to my silence, so she tried again, this time allowing her voice to waver just enough to imply sincerity. "After everything we've been through, you're really going to throw it all away? Over some miscommunication?" A miscommunication. The absurdity of it nearly made me laugh. I had laid out every fact, undeniable evidence in black and white, yet she still clung to the idea that she could warp the story, rearrange reality to make herself the victim. I leaned back in my chair, letting the weight of the truth settle between us. "Tell me, when was I supposed to notice that my life wasn't my own anymore? Before or after you conditioned me to follow your every demand?" Her expression faltered. For the briefest moment, the mask slipped, revealing the raw emotion underneath. Anger, panic, the desperation of someone watching their control slip through their fingers. But she recovered swiftly, scoffing as she shook her head. "Wow. You actually believe that? You're taking things way too literally." It was just talk, exaggeration, that's all. You're making this into something it's not. No, I said, my tone unwavering. I finally see things for what they are. Every decision I had thought was mine, every supposed choice I had made to alter myself. It had all been her doing. She had seized control, all while making me believe I was the one in charge. And the worst part? She had reveled in it. She stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "So now you're playing the victim?" she snapped. "Like I was some kind of evil mastermind pulling the strings and you were just some helpless pawn?" Her voice grew sharp, each word slicing through the air. "Give me a break. I did what any intelligent woman would do. I made sure I wasn't stuck with a man who made stupid choices. If you were weak enough to let me steer, that's on you." There it was. No illusions, no carefully constructed manipulations, just unfiltered disdain. I nodded, letting her words cement the final piece of clarity. That's all I needed to hear. She stilled. The moment the words escaped her lips, she knew she had said too much. Her eyes flicked toward the folder on the table, the reality of the situation sinking in. It was over, and she knew it. But giving up wasn't in her nature. Her voice dropped to something cold, something calculated. "You really think you can just walk away? Take what's mine?" "It was never yours," I corrected. "And yes, I can. It's already done. You can fight it, but you won't win." Her breathing turned uneven, hands curling into fists at her sides. "You have no idea what you're setting into motion." I rose, meeting her gaze without hesitation. "I know exactly what I'm doing." For years, she had orchestrated every move, dictated every outcome, controlled every detail. But that era was over. Now, she was the one grasping at nothing, while I was the one walking away. And she didn't handle it well. In the days that followed, she cycled through every strategy she had ever used against me. First, she pretended nothing had changed, slipping back into her usual role as though our confrontation had never taken place. She cooked my favorite meals, asked about my day, laughed at my jokes as if we were still a united front. When that failed, she leaned into guilt. One night, she appeared in the bedroom doorway, her voice quivering just enough to mimic authenticity. "I gave you everything. I made you into the man you are. And this is how you repay me?" I didn't respond. She had indeed shaped me, but not into the person I was meant to be. She had molded me into something that served her interests. When guilt proved ineffective, desperation took hold. She threatened to contest everything, to drag the legal battle through years of litigation just to make me suffer. But we both knew she had no case. I had been methodical, precise. Legally, it was already settled. The moment she realized she had no more moves left, the final shift occurred. The sweetness, the regret, the fury. It all drained away, leaving nothing but indifference. "Fine," she said, regarding me with a detached stare. "Take the damn house. But don't come crawling back when you realize you needed me all along." I didn't answer. I simply watched as she snatched her keys and stormed out. The door slammed shut, and just like that, she was gone. For the first time in years, the house stood in silence. I wandered through each room, absorbing the space that had once masqueraded as a home, but had truly been a prison designed just for me. Now, it was mine. Not just legally, fully, undeniably mine. Over the following weeks, I stripped away every last remnant of her influence, the furniture she had picked, the routines she had forced upon me, the unspoken rules she had imposed. Piece by piece, I reclaimed my life. I reshaped everything. The space around me became a reflection of my own vision, molded by my decisions and effort. It wasn't just about the home, it was about reclaiming control over my existence. I reconnected with people from my past, reignited passions I had once set aside, and, for the first time in ages, made choices that were entirely my own. No silent influence, No unseen hands steering me in directions I hadn't chosen. I was in command, and the feeling was electrifying. One morning, as I relaxed on my porch with a steaming cup of coffee, my phone screen lit up. Her name appeared. I didn't hesitate. Blocked. A sharp, decisive break, uncomplicated and final. She had spent years shaping me, twisting my identity to align with her expectations. But in the end, I was the one who stepped away, unbound. This story has come to an end. Manipulation isn't always shouting and orders. Sometimes it's soft words, subtle hints, and invisible boundaries shaping your reality until you lose yourself. True love is built on respect for freedom, not control disguised as care. If you find yourself changing, not because you want to, but because it's easier, stop and ask, who is really making the decisions in your life? Respect, trust, and freedom are the foundation of real relationships. Without them, love becomes a cage. Don't let anyone keep you on a leash. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.